G'day everyone and welcome to this week's Racing Bet preview, brought to you this week by BetDeluxe.com.au, serious betting for serious punters. I'm your host Tim Geers, joined by Trent Crebbin. A little bit different this week. We're going to the outskirts of Australia, a few different locations. Trent's going to be covering the big Group 1 meeting, first week of the South Australian Carnival at Morphettville, his home track. And I'm going to be shifting to Hawkesbury in New South Wales for their standalone meeting featuring the Hawkesbury Cup, the Guineas, the Gold Rush, and also the Hawkesbury Crown. So a bit to get through there. We'll be taking you through our best bets for both Hawkesbury and Morphettville. And then we'll be taking a look at in-depth look at both Group 1s on the card in Adelaide, the Robert Sangster Stakes, now known as the Tab Classic, and the Group 1 Australasian Oaks. Trent, how's things over in Melbourne? Be back on board to your home track, Morphettville, this weekend.
Yeah, I had a look at the card at Sandown. I think it's one of only two Sandown Saturday meetings they have for the year, and it just looked very off-season, open fields, a lot of slowish horses coming out. So I thought the card at Morphettville looked much more appealing. There's some really quality races there, so happy to preview that one and try and find some winners for the punters.
And we will still be previewing the card at Sandown. We'll have one of the other boys on deck to cover that meeting. I'll be doing both at this stage, both Hawkesbury and probably Ascot, unless I find something in Brisbane that makes me shift that way. But look, we have 3 or 4 meetings at least covered on RacingBet.com.au. But for this preview show, we'll just focus on Hawkesbury and Morphettville, the two biggest meetings for this weekend's racing. Anyway, let's hope the track of Morphettville is a little bit better than what Ballarat dished up during the week, Trent.
Yeah, that was a shocker. It was kind of predicted it going in a little bit and found a couple that firmed, but yeah, it was, you wanted to be on the rail, you wanted to be up near the lead on anything about off 3 lanes wider than the fence, hit the quicksand and couldn't really run on. So it was, yeah, a bit shocking, and hopefully Morphettville plays a bit fairer on Saturday.
I remember watching one of the last races there, and it was the thing of Trent Buston's that sat about 3 wide the trip at 40-1 and then just fought off the inside horse on the rail, which is about 20-1. And the thing that looped the field, travelled into it about 6 off the rail, looked like it was going to win by about 3 at the 200 and just found the quicksand and went backwards while the 2 on the rail just kept kicking. And yeah, the 40-1 pop just sat 3 wide the trip, 1 off the rail into the straight and just kept kicking to win.
Yeah, that's how a few races went down. And yeah, it was tough for the punters out there. I'm not sure too many had a winning day. And yeah, like I said, it was tough, and hopefully we can kind of bounce out of that. We've got a couple at Pakenham running tonight, and then we'll be covering Cranbourne tomorrow as well. And then, yeah, into the big meeting at Morphettville on Saturday.
Yeah, can't say I'll be rushing back to bed at Ballarat anytime soon after that. Good thing is we did pick up a couple of winners in Hong Kong overnight, which is much needed because I've been in struggle city the last week or so. Suffering a little bit of a dip, but we bounced back at Happy Valley last night, found the first 3 selections that we tipped, including best value at $13. So hopefully that sets us on an upward trend towards the weekend, and we can continue where we left off in Hong Kong last night. Okay, as I said, this week's episode brought to you by BetDeluxe, serious betting for serious punters. If you are having a bet this weekend, make sure you do so responsibly, but jump on betdeluxe.com.au. Check out their odds for all the key races this weekend. We'll kick off at Hawkesbury in New South Wales. Trent, I'll go first this week and get through my best bets before we handball over to you for the meeting at Morphettville. My best bet's going to come up in race number 7, and I assume this is probably going to be a lot of people's best bets at Hawkesbury. Race 7, number 3, Ellsberg. He's currently a touch over even money. He was dominant when he resumed in Sydney 2 weeks ago, and he actually, both my best bets this week at Hawkesbury come out of my horses to follow file from 2 weeks ago from the meeting at Randwick. He resumed first up from a spell. He jumped basically straight to the front, led throughout, was very impressive in doing so. He's got good form all the way back through his last preparation as well. He won very easily over 1,500 metres at Rose Hill. He then had form behind the likes of Dream Circle and Intrepidatious, and he was Group 3 placed in the Spring Stakes at Newcastle. He looked a different horse this preparation. He's still a colt. He couldn't have been more impressive there first up at Randwick, winning by 3 lengths in the South Pacific Stakes. Comes here second up from a spell, draws well in barrier 4. He should find the front again and be very hard to run down at Hawkesbury. So, as I said, I think he'll be a lot of people's best bets on the card there. Race 7, number 3, Ellsberg, touch over $2 at the moment. I do think the value in that race is number 2, Aim, at $11 or, at least double figure odds there for the Snowden team. Nashua Willer jumping on board. You might remember last preparation, he did absolutely nothing first up on the heavy track at Kensington. He then went to the Gold Coast for the Magic Millions three-year-old guineas, and he won pretty well on that occasion. Drew Barry 15, came from the back of the field, swooped home over the top to win by a length and 3/4. Two of his 3 career victories have come second up from a spell. So from the wide draw again, he's probably going to be somewhere in the back of the field. But I thought in this field, dropping out of the Group 2 Arrowfield Sprint, he was a very good chance at around $11. I think he's quite clearly the value in the race, and I'll be happy to have something on him as well. I think looking back through the history of this race, I think 2 of the past 5 winners have come out of the Arrowfield. So it's clearly a reliable form reference heading towards the Hawkesbury Guineas. Move on to my best value bet of the day, and that comes up in race number 5. Now, this was also another horse that I put in my horses to follow a couple of weeks ago out of the Randwick meeting. This is the Hawkesbury Crown, a Group 3 over 1,300 metres for the fillies and mares. And my best value bet of the day is going to be horse number 12, Air to Air. She's had 2 runs back from a spell this start, 2 runs back from a spell this preparation, I should say. And what I wrote about her after her last start in the follow file was the fact that she's been good in both those starts and that her form on paper doesn't necessarily reflect how well she's actually going. She's had to come from last in both of those starts. She's hit the line really well. And I did say, I think we'll get a good price, from a slightly unfashionable stable. She's only had, I think, the 1 career win from her 13 starts. So here she is again. She's double figure odds, $11 or $12. So we are getting a good price. But as I said, I think she's going much better than what her form might read on paper. Her only career victory did come 3rd up from a spell. She draws barrier 2, likely to be in the back half of the field. But yeah, I think she's going really well, hit the line well in her 2 starts. And with any luck here from that draw, I think she can be a big player in the Group 3. Notably, she is also nominated for race number 9 on the card, which is a benchmark 78. So if she goes there, she's certainly going to be hard to beat. But yeah, I think she can be more than competitive in Group 3 company here at race number 5, horse number 12, Air to Air. Of course, Etheria is probably the horse to beat in that race. I do concede that much. Trent, we'll handball over to you. Morphettville, 2 Group 1s on the card. The Robert Sangster Stakes, the Tab Classic, and the Group 1 Australasian Oaks. But before those, we'll get through your best bet on the card. William Pike makes the journey over to Adelaide, and you're keen on the Wizard of the West. Race number 4, horse number 2, Silent Sovereign. Currently a $2.70 chance is your best bet on the card.
Yeah, I am keen on Pike, who just managed to make the trip over after kind of a bit of touch and go there with restrictions for a bit. So I'm glad he's over because he's on a couple of rides that I'm keen on. Silent Sovereign's definitely one of them as my best bet of the day. I had her as a horse to follow as well from Caulfield last start. I thought she ran really well there at 2,000 metres. Dean Holland kind of took off at the 800 metres, got them all chasing, and she almost held them all off until Mohican Heights just got a late gap there and kind of did her on the line. I think that's pretty good form. Mohican Heights has since come out. He was flying before that. He's come out and run second to Ahmad since, or Ahmad, with that race that Persan failed in on Anzac Day. So I think that's quite solid form. She steps up to 2,500 metres here after 2 2,000-metre runs. So I think she's got the perfect platform. Her 1 run at this track and distance, she ran a fast finishing second to Realm of Flowers in a Fillies Classic. My only knock here is that she does go up a little bit in the weights. She's got to carry 58.5 as a mare and concede a few horses down in the weights a little bit. But I think she's got the class edge on there. She looks primed stepping up to the 2,500. She draws well, William Pike. And I think with even luck, she's going to go really close.
Okay, we'll get into the first Group 1 on the card because this is where your best value bets of the day come up. This is race number 7, the Tab Classic, formerly known as the Robert Sangster Stakes. You're keen on 2 horses here. Horse number 2, Mizzy, currently around $7, and horse number 7, Prophet's Thumb, currently around 20 to 1 or 25 to 1. So I suggest the form for Mizzy looks pretty good, splitting the likes of Sabatiano and Masked Crusader just 3 starts ago.
Yeah, that's kind of the main form line I'm going off to find her on top here. In the Canterbury Stakes there, she got a nice run just off the speed and ran really well at a big price. I think that's kind of what's holding her price up is that she's never really a fashionable horse. She's never really backed by the market. She goes around at long prices quite often. But I think, the run after that as well in the Coolmore where she ran second to Crone was quite good as well. She kind of failed in the George Ryder, but again, that's in much harder company. She's had a bit of a freshen up since then, back to the 1,200, which I think suits. She had a trial in between where she went very well. And I love the map here from Barrier 1. I think she probably gets crossed by Sistar. So I think she'll probably end up box seeding. If she has any luck in the straight, I think she's going to have kind of be saved for a last kind of final sprint, which is that kind of same run that she got in the Canterbury Stakes. And I just think a lot of her dangers are going to get a long way back here, drawn wide. The likes of Brooklyn Hustle, Flit, Liar, they're all going to be getting a long way back. I think Mizzy might be the horse that's presented at the right time. And I think if she gets that break on them, she's going to be mighty hard to catch.
Okay, and horse number 7, Prophet's Thumb, currently $21 to $26. What are your thoughts there?
Yes, she comes out of the Bellisbury Stakes at Caulfield, like a few of these do. Sistar won that race. Liar ran second. I thought Prophet's Thumb was probably the run of the race there. She half missed the start, had to go back to last. She ran the quickest last 600 and 400 the meeting and just kind of petered out the last 50 metres or so. She ran really well there. She was quite a gap between runs there as well. Barrier 2 here is a little bit sticky, but I think she can settle a touch closer than a few of her dangers from that race. And I thought, at the prices, she's definitely not hopeless and you could have something on her.
Okay, what is your thoughts on some of the other horses in this race? Because I quite like the look of horse number 3, Subpoenaed. Probably may have been a little bit biased from watching her go around in Sydney and being on her in a couple of starts this preparation, but she won really well first up in the Millie Fox Stakes in Sydney and then just had no luck at all in the Coolmore Classic. And I actually tipped her on top last start in the Coolmore. She sat 3 wide the trip, finished midfield, beaten 3.8 lengths. We've seen this quite often with Chris Waller where, middle of their preparation, he'll give them the likes of 6 or 7 weeks off, freshen them up. She's back to 1,200 metres here, drawn well, barrier 5, Damien Lane on. I thought $12 about her was a terrific price.
It's just 1,200 metres is the knock. They kind of stretched her out in trip a while ago as a 3-year-old. Then they decided she didn't really stay. So I'm not really sure what to make of her back to 1,200 metres. She does have form around Mizzy. Mizzy's beaten her home a couple of times when they've met. It is a bit of a scary setup that you can see it's a bit of a set play for Waller. You could make a case for her. I just think that 1,200 is probably just a touch on the short side for her. I didn't really want to get involved with her, but I can see the case, and that Waller setup is a bit ominous.
Okay, and what about Rubasaki, horse number 11? Talk us through her first up run because she obviously had no luck at all, hit the line really hard. Is it safe to say she's back this preparation or do we need to see her again?
Yeah, I think you could probably tentatively say that she is back. I really liked that run. She didn't have a whole lot of luck and kind of burst through in that Bellisbury Stakes that Prophet's Thumb came out of. Barrier 4, Billy Egan, probably going to get back. I think she's a definite chance. She may perhaps want the track a little bit softer as well. Just coming off a few injuries last prep, and I'm not really sure. I thought she was another one that I'd definitely throw in a quaddie or a first 4, but I just didn't really want to be backing her at around $15.
Okay, any others to speak about before we move on to the Australasian Oaks?
I just thought Instant Celebrity, the 3-year-old, was short enough at $6. She's been backed a bit. She carried 58 kilos in an easier race first up. I thought she kind of had her chance there, and she hasn't, in her career, she's kind of had a big hype, but hasn't beaten a whole lot. So I thought she was definitely short enough as favourite, stepping up to Wait for Age Group 1 company. So happy to be against her.
Okay, we'll move on to this second Group 1. This is race number 8 on the card, the Group 1 Australasian Oaks. This is a good little race, isn't it? We see the likes of the undefeated Tasmanian mare Hela. I think that's how you say it. She's 7 from 7 coming into this in Tasmania. We've got the likes of Steinem, who of course was a huge run in defeat in the Group 3 leading into this a couple of weeks ago and was undefeated in Melbourne prior to that. Why don't you kick things off and take us through your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is quite a good edition of the Australasian Oaks, I thought. I'm keen to be with 3 horses there. I think you can back 3 and get a good result out of the race. I've got Hella on top, and I think she's going to firm up. So I'd be probably taking the price now. I think she's around $485 or so. She's unbeaten, this filly, 8 from 8. She's constantly going around at short odds. I think the longest she's ever started is $1.95. Started $1.07 last start, was too good again. She's stepped up to 2,100 metres before and absolutely bolted in over checkerboard by 3.8 lengths, I think it was. That form kind of ties in. Checkerboard went to the Adrian Knox and ran well behind the likes of Flexible and Duays. So I think that ties in quite well. Draws barrier 3 here. She's probably going to lead or be just behind the leaders if something wants to take her on. And I think she's going to be pretty hard to run down. We haven't seen her really tested against the best yet, but I think she's quite good, and I think she's definitely going to measure up here. So she's on top for me. From number 13, Steinem, who I think is a very talented filly as well. Definitely should have won the main lead up over 1,800 meters. Drew barrier 20, had to go back to last in a fast run race. And you just see how much work she had to do between about the 800 all the way through to the 400 just to even get within striking distance. She looked like she was a winner at the 200, and the big run kind of just had its toll late, and she kind of just petered over the last 50 meters. She was backed off the map there to start $1.60 in that main lead up. I think she draws barrier 1 here, which is the main query. It's just whether she's going to get luck, but I'd probably prefer that over barrier 20 and a repeat of last start. So if she gets the gaps, I think she's going to be very hard to hold out. I think she's, definitely a big winning chance, and I'm happy to have her on side as well. I know one that you're keen to back as well here is number 17, American Angel, who makes the field now. She was backed off the map last start.
This was the sickest watch of the day last start. She was $9 into 370 and dead set, never got a crack at them until about the 100-meter mark.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that she probably should have won, or at least gone very close to beating Brookspire there. She had no luck whatsoever. Was backed into $3.70 or so there. The market really loves this horse. Like, she started $1.50 at her 2 starts prior to that, and now she's sitting around $16, $15, $16, $17. I think that's a really good price. Draws well for Damian Lane. I think you've got to be on at those odds. I think she's the clear value in the race, and I'll definitely be backing her.
Yeah, and I agree with you about Steinem as well. Like, her run in defeat last start was enormous. And I think the only other thing that I would suggest to add on to what you were saying is the fact that that day at Morphettville, I think the inside probably 3 or 4 lanes in the straight, much like what we saw at Ballarat the other day, was the place to be. And she had to come from, as you said, from barrier 20 or so, loop the field, come widest in the straight. She looked the winner at the 200. And then I think, the horses that won darted up along the inside closer to the rail. So I thought her run was enormous. Barrier 1, I like for her. Good stable, obviously. They know how to win these races. I've got her on top. And, yeah, I completely agree. American Angel, scary combination. Danny O'Brien, Damian Lane, backed as if they knew she was going to win last start, and she should have. $17 looks a very good price here. Don't know much about this Tasmanian mare. If she cops some pressure mid-race, it's going to be fascinating. Any others that we need to touch on before we leave this week?
You probably make a case for Personal and Flexible coming out of the Sydney form. Personal was terrible last start. Not really sure what to make of her. Flexible was a good one running the Adrian Knox. She's a good chance as well. But I'm actually quite keen. I think that's probably the best betting race on the day. I'm pretty keen to back Heller and Steinem and American Angel. I think you'll be getting a result out of those 3.
All right, good race. And, some good prices available this weekend. And even though Hawkesbury's, it's a really scary meeting. Like, it's one of those standalone meetings that tend to throw up, like, I think I've got a spider on me or something here. It's one of those meetings that tend to throw up, like, scary results, the Ballarats or the Bendigos or the Hawkesbury's or the Kembla Grange meetings. Those once-a-year standalone meetings that just punters, they're just a complete nightmare. But looking through the card, I think there's some decent betting races available at Hawkesbury as well. So quite looking forward to Saturday. And, we'll have it all covered on racingbet.com.au. That'll do us for this week. Thanks to betdeluxe.com.au for sponsoring this week's episode. We'll have everything up on the website for Friday night, and, of course, all the Metro meetings on Saturday. Big Group 1 day in Adelaide. Trent will have you covered there. I'll have you covered in Sydney and probably Perth as well, and we'll get Billy onto the Melbourne form. So if you're in need of winners, we'll have, in excess of 35 races covered up on the website. So best of luck, and we'll be back to preview more Group 1 action next week.